Expansion is over. The Big 12 is done, and it already won. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll with ESPN Central Texas. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Thank you for the positive reception this week. And, the amount of love that this show has gotten. Look, I want to keep going, though. I want to hit 2,000 Twitter followers. I want to hit 10,000 subscribers here. Please help me do it if you like it. I'm having a blast, and I'm glad you're here with me. I'm going to keep asking favors of you, though. And this next one is, I want you to do me the favor of being the voice of reason when it comes to the water cooler. When you show up to work, when you're at the water cooler, when one of your buddies texts in your old college group chat, or one of your friends calls you and says, hey, brother, I know you're really well connected with that whole Big 12 stuff. What is going on? I want you to be the first to firmly put your foot down and say the Big 12 is done. The Big 12 is done, and there is no more expansion past 16 teams. I was one of the people that thought the Big 12 would be done at 14. They've expanded even further past that. And to be honest with you, I don't know if Brett Yormark exactly loves it. Let me unpack that, because I get you're probably yelling at your phone or your car right now. You're like, of course he loves it. Well, let's think about this a little bit. Do you think Brett Yormark believes that he bit off more than he could chew? No. I don't believe that's the case, though I do know there is a certain level of uncomfortability knowing that over 50% of your employees are brand new. It's great, right? And he doesn't regret any of this. The only people with regrets are the 4 Pac-12 teams that got left behind, George Kliavkoff, Texas and Oklahoma. There is no regret here. However, there is a point where you say, look, I'm done. There's no getting Gonzaga in basketball only. There is no getting UConn in basketball only. Brett McMurphy had put this out in the last couple of days that the Big 12 was done. There have been various athletic directors around this conference that are much better than Ray Anderson at Arizona State at what they do, who have come out and said, it is over. There is no TV money left. There is the event, and people are going to bring this up for weeks and weeks and weeks as this starts to unfold, and we're going to talk about it as a possibility, and that's Florida State. Now, let me unpack why we would talk about this as a possibility. If Florida State gets to a point where the Big Ten and the SEC say, "Hey, we're not biting," which is not going to happen, by the way. They're a shoe-in. Florida State's a shoe-in in the SEC or the Big Ten. Those conferences would be stupid not to take them. If there's a mega nuclear fallout and Florida State is begging the Big 12 to get in, at that point, Brett Yormark probably considers it. You have to, right? That's one of those programs you'd stick your neck out for. But let's be brutally honest, that's not going to happen. We're not going to get to that point with this whole deal. There won't be a time when Florida State's knocking down the door of the Big 12. And that's okay. What I think we can all do is sit back and say, look, we're good. This reminds me a lot of when Baylor won a national championship in basketball, or when BYU won a national championship in football, coming on 40 years ago, or less than that. And Colorado wins a national championship. There are some of these moments that have become one-offs. And you wonder, okay, when is that going to happen again? When are we going to see that again? I know so many people who get wrapped up in the idea of dynasty. So follow with me here. They start thinking, oh, wow, this recent success, this national championship, we can do it again next year. No. Stop and smell the roses. Just stop and smell the roses. There should be an elite level of contentment after what the Big 12 has done. This is where you get like me. You get in the lazy boy recliner. Mine's reclining as we speak. You sit back, you light a cigar, you have a cold beer, and you say, or a cougar tail, and you say, we did it. We did it. We don't have to do anything more. The Big 12 won. There were a lot of losers, and there will be more losers in this realignment cycle. The Big 12 is not one of them. This conference won. This is where you go to the water cooler and your buddy says, I really think the Big 12 is going to get UNC. I really think the Big 12 is going to get Duke. And you say, nope. Well, not only is the Big 12 not going to get UNC or Duke, the Big 12 doesn't want UNC and Duke. The Big 12 is done. Sources from the conference have made it clear. The athletic directors have made it clear. There is not a need to go past 16 teams. And do you want to be the diluted conference? We already talked about how a couple of these football teams the Big 12 are letting in. They're not great. They're not powerful, big teams that are going to beat up on return members like Oklahoma State or TCU. There are some of these basketball teams that are not power teams that'll beat up on return members like Kansas and Baylor. So you've already let in a couple of strays who are great big brands in college athletics, but still need to bring up certain areas of their athletic department. You do not want to keep doing that, and you've got to have a cap somewhere. If you go get greedy, which is what the Pac-12 did, which is what even some of these schools that went in, like Arizona State, has been really greedy, really snarky. When you do that, you start to lose money. You start to lose exposure. If you are in a position that the Big 12 is in, you call it a day. You pack it up. You're already the lunch pail conference. You're the blue collar teams. That's the one commonality, I think, amongst these 16 teams is they don't get enough respect in college athletics. You pack everything in and you say, what a day we had. This is a job well done. Brett Yormark, great at saying yes. The Pac-12 couldn't say yes. The Pac-12 was given a great TV deal from ESPN, and George Kliavkoff couldn't say yes to it. Brett Yormark knows when to say yes, and he knows when to say no. And this, guys, I'm telling you, is a time to say no. That coworker keeps saying, oh, wow, well, where would the Big 12 go next? Well, the Big 12, if they really want to survive, if they really want to be a Big Three, they're going to have to go poach the ACC. And to be honest with you, looking years down the line, maybe that becomes true. But what I want you to tell them is it's not true right now. The Big 12's got an insane rivalry with BYU and Utah. The Big 12 has the best conference in college basketball, the best conference in softball, wildly competitive baseball. You've gone West Coast to East Coast. You have some parts of the year, thanks Arizona for being weird, encapsulated all 4 time zones. What more could you want? And there comes a point, we've talked about how money is so big in this. There comes a point where ESPN and Fox say, okay, slow down. There's a lot going on right now. And if you bite off more than you can chew, it's not going to work. But I really believe that the Big 12 has hit the cap, has hit the maximum in this realignment period by bringing in these 8 new teams. They have done all they need to do. There is nothing left for Brett Yormark in this conference to prove. So you stop. You call it a day and say, I don't need anybody else. I'm good. The SEC, they keep scrounging for people. The Big Ten is still making phone calls and talking to Florida State. Saudi Arabia wants to add Florida State to its conference. The Big 12 can just say, we're not doing it. We are okay where we are and move on with our lives. And I love it. Look, sit back tonight. Have the cigar. Thank Brett Yormark. Thank Bob Bowlesby, of all people, the old commissioner, for bringing these new teams in and making this the most fun conference in college athletics. And to me, here's what you say at the water cooler. This is the deepest conference in the NCAA. It's the deepest conference when you take all sports into account. Conference of Champions, the Pac-12, we got most of their champions. See you later. This is the deepest conference in sports. Maybe not in football. Sure, I'll give that to you. Maybe deeper than the Big Ten. Ugh. We don't have a Rutgers. We don't have a Northwestern. We don't have a Vanderbilt. The SEC has a doormat. The ACC, half of them are doormats. We don't have that. And for that, I'm happy. Fat, sassy, and happy. Give it up. We're good. Checked out. Big 12 is done with expansion. And a big part of that's the revenue that's going to come in from some of these big matchups, like Utah and BYU. The Big 12's biggest rivalry that will help this conference tenfold down the line on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your conference every day. The only thing that I like more than BYU and Utah's rivalry is FanDuel and the fact that I can go in and bet on it. But right now, I'm not even betting on that. I'm betting on the NFL, the National Football League. When I tell you this promo is the best promo that I've seen run on this channel, I'm not lying to you. I'm not blowing hot air up your skirt. I'm giving it to you like it is. FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. I get this certain little tingle, this feeling when I throw $10 on something and it wins. I just love the fact that I made $10, right? I made I could have spent that $10 at a movie, would have gotten $0 back. I spent that $10 at FanDuel, I got it back. That feels pretty good. Feels especially good when you get bonus bets. This is safe. Bonus bets every time the team that you pick to win the Super Bowl wins in the regular season. So if you pick the Jets to win the Super Bowl and they win 13 games in the regular season, you get bonus bets for every win, and you can spend those bonus bets on spreads, player props, overs, unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com/locked on. Go check it out. Keep in mind with that terms and conditions, they do apply. All right. It's the #1 rivalry to me in the Big 12, and it's not close. It's one of the reasons the Big 12 is going to be able to stay prominent in college athletics. What do you need to be a force in college athletics? It's good rivalries. And I think the Holy War is a top 5 rivalry in college athletics. You've played over 100 games. You have played one in Vegas. You played the Holy War in Sin City, which is one of my favorite matchups this game was played. It was a great game too, 35-28. Sorry, BYU fans. And I'm going to say sorry, BYU fans, even more, because while BYU has the most recent win in 2021, this rivalry has not been competitive in the last decade. Utah has dominated. 9 out of the last 10 games have gone to the Utes. Now, a lot of these are close. You have a ton of one-score games in that stretch, but it doesn't change the fact that Utah won 9 straight, especially after, if you go back to the 70s or so, BYU dominated this rivalry so much and really built itself up as the big brand in Utah. Here's what we're talking about. Let's be very honest about this. If you're a Big 12 fan, say you're an Oklahoma State fan, a TCU fan, a UCF fan listening, you go, I don't know if I really knew much about this rivalry. I will tell you they hate each other in like the nicest way possible. They hate each other, but both of these schools have such a great religious affinity that they give you the shirt off their back. They are if you get really down to the nitty gritty of it, 2 of the nicest fan bases you're going to meet when they're interacting with other fan bases. Weird for me to say about Utah, as nasty as they've been the last couple of weeks, but they're coming around. The large population, right? The silent majority is coming around for Utah fans and being much more polite. BYU has always been polite, except for Utah fans. Apparently under the table, they say some mean things. This is let's call it like it is. This is a religious matchup. You've had Utah players and coaches who have said it was too religious of a matchup because for a state school, for a public school like Utah, it's the most religious public school, I would venture to say maybe in the country. The most religious, prominent public school in the country, more so than Notre Dame for sure. Utah has a huge population of folks who are members of the Church of Latter-day Saints and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing that these two teams are effectively of the same religion. These two schools are of the same religion duking it out, right? Who is the better LDS school? There are a lot of people who are part of this rivalry who will say that's not the case, especially on the Utah side, but it's 100% what it is. It's like if there were 2 really prominent Catholic schools, which there's Notre Dame, right? They're the one. We point at Notre Dame. If there were 2 schools who are devoutly committed to Catholicism, you're fighting for your faith. You're fighting for your beliefs. That's what this is. Which team is a better ambassador of the LDS faith? That's why it's called the Holy War, because BYU is the flagship station of the flagship school of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Utah is another big brand in the LDS community. It just is. So that's what the fight is for. It goes way deeper than football. And what I think the fight is also for a team like Utah is to say, hey, look, BYU might be the LDS spearhead, but hey, look, we deserve some credit in Utah as well. What has happened because religion is such a big part of this matchup is that BYU has become the A1 in the state of Utah, right? If you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where do you want to go to school? Brigham Young University. I don't know if Utah fans, people who graduated from Utah, really love that that's the moniker that's given. Because of that case, BYU is the bigger brand of the 2 schools in the state of Utah. It's the bigger brand of the 2 schools nationally. Why? Because so many people, so many members of a faith make a pilgrimage to go to school at BYU. somewhat at Utah as well, mostly at BYU. So despite the fact that BYU has lost a majority of the matchups in this rivalry, and it's close-ish, right? 62-35. Huh. And despite BYU having lost 27 more games than it has won against Utah, they're still the prominent brand because faith and religion play such a big part in these two schools, in their states, and in this respective matchup. This rivalry is crucial. Rivalries are crucial. And the Big 12 does not have a lot of good rivalries. You can point at Arizona State. Who? That's not appointment television. Farmageddon, I love Farmageddon. Iowa State and Kansas State, still not really appointment television. Baylor and TCU on some years is, right? It always feels close. The Rivalry, as they call it, not always appointment television. Every year, I don't care. I don't care how good BYU is. I don't care how bad BYU is, how good or bad Utah is. This is appointment television. People across the country, across a faith, the fastest growing faith in the world, are intently watching this game. And I think there would be some of you who out there are thinking like, oh man, this guy's getting way too deep in the weeds about this, about religion here, about faith here. But no, you have to understand what kind of peg that is in this rivalry and how you can't take that cornerstone away from this and understand what the holy war is. This is a battle for the LDS church year in and year out. Yeah. Who's the premier institution of the LDS church? Because they're both very prominent, despite Utah being the state school of Utah. They are located in Salt Lake City. And BYU's not. This is a heated rivalry that is respected, well respected, over 100 matchups, well respected in college athletics. And I'm very excited to have it in the Big 12. It's going to help keep this conference just showing and going, rolling for years to come. It's huge because rivalries are massive on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, and every day. I'm a Diet Dr. Pepper here, invented in Waco, Texas, which is the perfect time for me to tell you that I have dogs. I have a German short hair, 2 German short hairs. You know what those are? Bird dogs. Oh, baby. I've been wearing bird dog shorts the past couple of days without underwear. It feels a little bit weird. I don't know that I am completely comfortable with the idea still of not wearing underwear, but bird dogs have made it a little bit easier. Right now I am sporting the pants. Yesterday was the shorts. Today is the pants. And I don't think there's a downside. I actually really like them. They had this like weird cotton material. I say weird because it's supposed to feel kind of cotton, supposed to feel kind of warm and really makes you uncomfortable. Not this. It's stretchy and nice. And when you buy a pair of pants right now or shorts right now, you get this cool hat. It's like a little golf hat. My dad really likes it. It's a bird dog's hat. And I'm telling you, your old stiff cotton shorts, your old stiff pants, they got some cotton in these guys. You'd never know it. They look like Lululemon, but better. They fit better than Lululemon as well. You just got to put them on. It's like walking on air. I wear my BYU shirt, my bird dog shorts. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. Enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free white tech hat with your order. birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, or use the promo code LockedOnCollege. You get a free white tech hat. You will not want to miss this Bird Dogs offer. Just trust me on it. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. UCF, you dirty dog. Dude, I have not talked about UCF enough on this show yet. I have, in the past, dogged on UCF at times because it's an institution that it's not watered down, but there's so many people that it's tough to really have a grasp on. And it's in Orlando. It's tough to have a grasp on this fan base. But what I've learned in the last week is they are very passionate and they're often right. Like their passion's in a great spot. And all I've seen on Twitter is how good UCF 2024 recruiting is. So I had to go check it out for myself. And UCF is the team of the future in the Big 12. If the Knights continue to recruit like this, they are number 1 in 2024. It's not even early at this point for 2024. You're starting to really feel out how your class is going to look. They are number 1 in the Big 12. They're 25th in the nation. Now, 25, your number 1 team being 25 is pretty low for this conference. I want to see that boosted a little bit here. But in 2024, UCF is dominating everybody in the Big 12. They just got another big commitment by bringing in a 4-star Jalen Hayward, a cornerback. from Rockledge, Florida. They're not just recruiting Florida either. Frankie Arthur, 4-star kid, he is the number 5 running back in the country from Conroe, Texas. Kylan Fox from Loganville, Georgia, a big wide receiver, 6'4", 208. Kid's the number 8 wide receiver in the country. He's coming to the Big 12. He's coming to Central Florida. He is from Georgia. Walt Claire Flynn Jr., Georgia, interior offensive lineman, the number 17 interior offensive lineman in the country. How about another wide receiver with a hell of a name, Rick Darius Farmer from Melbourne, Florida. Kid is fast as lightning, number 42 wide receiver in the country. This class is stacked. You already have 17 some odd hard commits to go to Central Florida. And what you've done here is you've taken Gus Malzahn, who's a former Big 12 coach, who is I give a lot of credit to Auburn's national championship under Gene Chizik. I give a lot of credit to 2 guys, Gus Malzahn and Jeff Grimes, for helping build those teams. I truly am blown away by what UCF is doing in recruiting right now. I don't know if it's because Gus Malzahn has stepped in and said, hey, look, I've got SEC prowess. I'm going to come here and win. Or if that's just kind of a sideshow and overall the recruiting staff being great. But UCF's doing something right. I love John Rice Plumlee, by the way. I think there are a lot of really good ambassadors for Central Florida football that are currently on that team. And the way you're seeing that pan out is with an insane recruiting class. Told you number 25 of the country. That's big. That's big because it outranks teams like Ole Miss. Yeah, UCF is out recruiting Ole Miss, a new Big 12 school in Arizona. You love what Joey McGuire has done at Texas Tech. They're at 33. That's 8 spots behind UCF. They're ahead of Arizona. They're ahead of an SEC team like Kentucky. They're ahead of West Virginia and Cincinnati. They're ahead of Arizona State. They are a top 25 team who is just behind schools like Nebraska and Texas. UCF, what's crazier about this is they haven't been a Power 5 school. They just got to the Power 5. And how do they do it? Before they have stepped foot on the turf in a Big 12 game, they're the number 1 team recruiting in this conference in 2024. People need to start talking about the future of UCF football in the Big 12. If this is the trajectory of recruiting, if Gus Malzahn can do this, even if UCF struggles to win in the Big 12 next season, even if this is a slow progression, I truly believe that if UCF continues to recruit at this rate, the way that the coach that Gus Malzahn is from Arkansas, friend of mine, that this team's got a high ceiling in the new Big 12. Everybody else catch up. Isn't that crazy? Everybody else right now is playing catch up to UCF in recruiting in 2024. BYU's not there. TCU, who just went to a national championship, they're not there. Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, who went to a college football playoff. These teams are all behind, even the new guys, Colorado and Deion Sanders, behind UCF in recruiting. If you're a Knights fan, damn good time to be a Knights fan. This is impressive, guys. This is very impressive from Gus Malzahn. You know what I find impressive? I'm going to throw in a little add-on to today's program. That is the Big 12's loudest stadiums in the country. I tweeted this out, and I think you're a coward if you tweet out something poppy and you don't back it up. And I'm not going to go into deep depth on all of these, but I want to put together the reason that I put this list here, the Big 12's loudest houses in 2023. The reason I put it together is because I got to thinking, whose stadiums are going to be the best specifically next year? I get it. Jones AT&T at Texas Tech, it hasn't been the best for the past long time, right? But I think this next year, with how good Tech's going to be, with a good home schedule, that they'll have some night games that will be rocking. It'll be the loudest stadium. They are back to what they were 15 years ago at the peak of the Mike Leach era, the number 1. LaVell Edwards Stadium, BYU could go 6-6, 7-5. BYU could go 9-3. I think either way. LaVell Edwards, I don't know what they did to change something. It's a top 3 stadium in the Big 12, and it's going to be loud. It's the loudest stadium. It's the best stadium atmosphere that I've ever been in live. I've been to Tuscaloosa. I've seen games in Tuscaloosa. I've seen games across the SEC, which is supposed to be king. LaVell Edwards put them all to shame. The Bounce House at UCF, I think they're going to be surprisingly good. They're going to shock some people. If UCF goes 9-3, I won't be surprised, but a lot of people will. I love John Rice Plumlee, and the Bounce House has a huge reputation to uphold. I think they do it. UCF fans, I keep talking about BYU and how good they are. I need UCF to show up this fall and prove that its stadium is the best, one of the best in the Big 12. Number 4, Boone Pickens. Dude, they take the paddles. And I like to say, I liken it, say this. I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to be great next year, but if you're a first-year quarterback, if this is the first time you have ever played in Boone Pickens, consider it a loss. Consider it a loss, especially at night. Yeah. If this is the first time you've experienced Boone Pickens, if this is the first big atmosphere you get, you're going to lose. A night game at Oklahoma State, oof. Friends in low places, oof. The paddles, oof. Good luck. Bill Snyder family, this is another big reason. It's top 5. This is not a stadium that's revered across college athletics. So before the Kansas State fans are like, oh, we're definitely top 3, you're really good at football. And that's going to help carry your home crowd. On years that Kansas State is not really good at football, the crowds aren't great. That's true with most places in the Big 12. This year, I think Kansas State will be really good at football. I think the crowds will be great, especially in a night game. Can I say it's one of the top 3 loudest in the Big 12? No, but there are now 14 teams next year. You've beaten Oklahoma. You've beaten Texas. You've beaten a college football playoff team like TCU. Take it and go, dude. I'm excited for Bill Snyder Family Stadium in 2023. I'm excited for football. I'm excited for you to come back tomorrow. JD Piquel from On 3 joins the show. He's a good dude, man. Used to work with him. Great guy. This has been It Always Will Be. Thanks for coming back today. Follow it on Twitter. Follow it. Subscribe, man. I want to hit 10,000 by the end of this year. 10,000. I think we can do it. Locked On. Thank you for making it your first listen every single day. Big 12.